Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. I am your host, Sean, and welcome back to the morning Manchester United News Roundup show. Um, Big day yesterday. If you guys remember, we had the Community Shield. We had some big transfer news drop. And then, of course, yesterday was my big 23-24 Manchester United awards show. For those of you who were able to stop by live, you got to see my buddy Dylan and I chat and talk about the transfer news, react to the Community Shield, and then obviously go through our picks for the award show. We had some picks come in from my buddy Justin, who was not able to make it, but he was, spending time with friends and family was super important. Obviously, we got to have those kind of priorities. You only get one life, so I do appreciate that and respect that. But I do appreciate Justin for putting in the time and the work, and I do appreciate Dylan for doing the same thing, for putting in the time and the work, the research to get those picks in. So big show yesterday. Had a lot of fun doing that show with Dylan. I was so appreciative of him for stopping by. I am exhausted though from doing that. So I'm obviously it was a longer show. A lot of talking, a lot of prep work, a lot of cleaning on my end went into doing that because I like my house to be clean when people come over. But plus I'm introverted, so introverts, when we engage in those really deep, good, long discussions, it's great. We thrive on that, but it is super exhausting. So I was feeling it yesterday, but I did have a blast. I do appreciate everyone who got involved. If you haven't gone yet and checked out the video, if you weren't able to check it out live, go back and watch it, get some time. Just let it run in the background while you're folding laundry, while you're cooking dinner, whatever you want to do, while you're just hanging out on the hammock in the yard or whatever it is. Give it a watch while you're working out even. It's a good video for that. And then get involved in the comments on that video to let me know your picks. Yeah, obviously, we did worst refereeing decision. If you caught that, that was the Rashford's red card against Copenhagen in the Champions League. We had the player of the season, which Kabi Mainu took home that one. Moment of the season, which Amad Diallo's match winner against Liverpool in the FA Cup was voted for that. And then we had the goal of the season, which, surprise, was Alejandro Garnacho's bicycle kick against Everton. So big fun video, throwing out that video. Yeah, those are spoiler alerts, but I posted the results on Twitter, on YouTube, talked about it. But the big part about those is going through each one, kind of reliving each one of those moments and kind of giving thoughts on it, and then getting everyone else's thoughts. So big up everyone who got involved with that. Again, it was a longer video. We did go into detail about the Community Shield match yesterday as well, and then the big transfer news. So check that out. Leave a like on that video if you want to get involved in the comments. We are going to get stuck in today with some transfer updates and everything. So before we do kick off, hit the like button for me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Go check me out on Twitter, MUFC versus everybody. I was kind of live tweeting along with the Community Shield match yesterday, going in hard on Bernardo Silva's dick move, elbowing Garnacho, which quite frankly would have been a red card had that been in a league match. So that little piece of shit can do one. But got some news today regarding some of the big news from yesterday. So let's get stuck in. So we got some news today from Fabrizio Romano, and he has said that Manchester United are planning for Matthias de Ligt and Noussair Mazraoui on Monday. Bayern have already approved that 45 million euro plus 5 million fee for de Ligt, 15 million plus 5 million for Mazraoui. So 60 million combined for both players. We asked the question yesterday, is that a good deal? Do you think that's a good deal? I think it's a good deal on paper. I think that if both are fit and can stay fit and de Ligt's knee issues are behind him, I think if we get them for 40 matches this year, with rotation and everything, and maybe 45, I think that's a steal, personally. Again, my biggest issue with de Ligt has never been about quality or anything. It's always been about the knee issues. And I do like Mazraoui as well. I do think Ferdy is probably the better option, but I'm not going to say no to Mazraoui because I do think he's better than Wan-Bissaka. So looks like it's a 5-year deal plus options for another year. Medical tests were booked. So that was coming yesterday. This morning, Sky Sports actually shared that both could be available for the fall match, depending on when they get in, depending on the completion of medicals. Obviously, they were in the matchday squad yesterday for a friendly against Spurs. They did not play, so thank you, Bayern, for not playing them. I do think a player, in order to be eligible for a match, a player's got to be registered like the day before, right? Like 24 hours before kickoff. So if everything goes smoothly, would you start them against Fulham? If Shaw's not fit, sounds like Dallow's going to be ready. Would you put Mizraoui on the left? Would you start De Ligt over Maguire? De Ligt and Leach partnership against Fulham on Friday? I would not say no to that. I think, there's one of the things I have been critical about Ten Hag is a little bit of that hesitancy to just play players. I get there's a fine line between not being fit, whatever, but I think a lot of us would have maybe wanted to see Xerxes play a little bit. Obviously, I'm a little in the outlier that I don't want first team players anywhere near these friendlies in preseason because we've seen what happens year in, year out with injuries. Would you start De Ligt against Fulham? Would you start Mizraoui on the left? Let me know in the chat. As far as De Ligt goes, though, remember, Bayern fans did not want De Ligt to be sold. If you remember, they actually started that petition, similar to the petition they started last year to keep Thomas Tuchel. They started a petition to keep De Ligt at the club. And then I think the petition was started in June. It reached 71,000 signatures, you guys. So clearly he's highly rated among the Bayern fan base. Bayern fans did not want him to go. I can tell why. I mean, you got your choices are Eric Dyer. I mean, I wouldn't want to get rid of De Ligt either to keep Eric Dyer, but it sounds like he's not in Vince and company's plans. But it is what it is. Their loss could be our gain in that regard. So let me know. Would you start him against Fulham? Do you think he's ready? Just throw him right in. Do you just play him till they break? Or are you one of those kind of fans? I can totally understand it as well. We all get to that point. The regular season, Europa League, FA Cup, all that is much different than preseason. I would play nothing but youngsters all preseason if it were up to me, but it's not up to me. It's not why. That's why I'm not a football manager. So, Fabrizio Romano also gave us a little bit of update on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Obviously, a lot of the Nusayr Mazraoui talk was heavily hinging on Wan-Bissaka leaving. Romano said this morning, Wan-Bissaka can be considered a West Ham player. Ben Jacobs added that Wan-Bissaka will, in fact, receive a payoff as well from United of around £5 million. So remember, we spoke the other day about the old regime negotiated with some of these players that we see from United a lot. We sign a contract, and then there's always the option for another year. So the old regime decided it was very wise in their infinite stupidity to add a clause with some of these players that if that extra option was triggered, that they would get half of their fee. So Wan-Bissaka negotiated. He's exercising whatever's in his contract. It's not his fault. It is what it is. But he will get $5 million from United. So really, we're getting $10 million from him, gross, all said and done. But on paper, though, the financial reports will show that we got $15 million. And then he updated us this morning, Ben Jacobs, to say that Wan-Bissaka is in fact in London getting his medical today. So pretty much done and dusted on that, barring any sort of last minute medical issues. So Wan-Bissaka gone to West Ham, Nusayr Mazraoui, De Ligt coming in, 2 in, 1 out, potentially room for more to leave this summer. Moving on to midfield, Fabrizio Romano did sort of give us a little bit of an update on Manuel Ugarte and United's pursuit of him. He said Ugarte is considered by United to be the perfect midfield signing internally, but the main issue, again, is price. He adds 2 important options for United to sign him. PSG need to drop their price, or United need to sell a player. We've gone through kind of know we need to sell to buy. PSG want a lot of money for him. They're trying to make profit on him after a year, which I don't get. You don't want him. He wasn't clearly in Luis Enrique's plan, so you're not going to flip him for a profit, all right? This ain't fixer-upper. So it's getting to that point, though, as far as midfield especially, where we need to make a decision on Ugarte. Are we going to accept a lower offer for McTominay if it means we can just grab Ugarte and get that done, if he is our priority? Or are we going to move on to other targets that might not cost as much, that might be easier to get for the sake of strengthening perhaps our weakest area on the pitch? Are we willing to take a lower bid from Fulham for McTominay just to get some funds and to get a midfielder over the line? Because I do think we need a midfielder. The transfer window is not going to be, I'm not going to be crazy about transfer window if we don't get a midfielder in this summer. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit. There we go. So let me know your thoughts. Move on from Ugarte. go find another target. Berga, Amrabat, Fofana, João Gomez, Andre. We've been linked to all these players. Richard Rios was another one. So let me know your thoughts on Ugarte. Move on. Just get it done and deal with the aftermath later. Where you stand on that, guys. Someone mentioned yesterday in the chat, I forget who it was, so forgive me. I want to say maybe it was McMillan, but don't quote me. Mentioned this rumor that popped up yesterday that United were plotting a £50 million bid for Brighton's striker, Evan Ferguson, the young Irish striker who popped up a couple years ago, had really exploded on the scene, got an unfortunate injury. Been a little quiet since, but I remember seeing someone mention it. I remember seeing little blurbs. I didn't see what the source was. So I went back this morning and kind of deep that a little bit. So you got to deep this stuff, guys. Follow the source links, even if there are sources. A lot of times there aren't sources. So I can't be bothered when somebody's source is according to sources, or it's understood that this, or it's just, that's not a source. That's just somebody speculating. That's like literally two people, like a journo and someone else in a bar are talking, and one person's like, yeah, I think United should go for this, and then the journo's like, ooh, okay, United have been linked, or it's so like, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, let me get a drink real quick. Allergies are killing my throat, itchy. So I looked into this Ferguson rumor that popped up just to see where it was coming from, because it was gaining traction on social media. But it started with the Mirror. So the Mirror's source for that was the Daily Star. So there's a link in the Mirror article saying, according to the Daily Star. Click on the link, takes you to the Daily Star website. And the Daily Star has no sources for this. There's literally nothing to substantiate this claim that United are planning this £50 million move for Evan Ferguson. The only thing that they claim it is, like, Chelsea were linked. When I didn't deep any of the Chelsea links because I'm not a Chelsea fan. I don't care what Chelsea are doing. And then their basis for the claim was simply this, again, searching for links between and we saw this when Ten Hag arrived. Like, so many Dutch players, so many Ajax players, so many were linked with Ten Hag. So the only link for the Daily Star is that Dan Ashworth was sporting director at Brighton when the Seagulls brought in Evan Ferguson from Irish side Bohemians when he was young. That's literally the only link. So be prepared to see a lot. And it's the same with the Southgate stuff. Be prepared to see a lot of links with players, with coaches, or whoever who have any sort of connection with anybody at Ineos. Like, it's just the way it's going to be for a little while. You see it all the time. I remember when Ronald Koeman went to Barcelona, they were linked with every Dutch player under the sun at the time. So it is what it is. This is how journalism works. Journalism in football, we know it. And United's name is going to be thrown out a lot of times just to get clicks. There was a thing about Lukaku today. I forget what it was. Some, like, the Mail or somebody on Twitter saying that he was linked with Napoli because he's still a Chelsea player. But the photo they used was Lukaku in a Manchester United shirt. So obviously, if you're scrolling, you see Lukaku in a United shirt, and it's from, you're gonna, like, odds are you're gonna click on it. That's what the media does. We have to get used to it. It's just the way it is. So I'm not buying any of the Ferguson links. So you let me know. Well, obviously, if anything does pop up with that has any sort of legitimacy, we'll talk about it. But for now, I don't think I think it's a non-starter. So moving on to current United players. So we got that squad update yesterday from Samuel Butthurst before we went live, letting us know that Harry Amas, Ethan Wheatley, and Toby Collier had officially been included in United's first-team squad for this upcoming season. Fabrizio Romano reported this morning that one midfielder might not be leaving this summer. Apparently, Casemiro is expected to stay at United this year. There were those reports the other week that United had shifted from trying to sell Casemiro to trying to get the best out of him. He was very good. I thought he was very good in the Community Shield. I'm not saying that was good enough. Like, okay, well, he's convinced me, let's keep him. I'm not saying that. But you have to give credit where it's due. Casemiro had a great game yesterday. Yes, it was a friendly, but, he looked great. He looked like he'd lost a couple pounds. It looked like he was doing very well in that advanced position. He was making some good first-time long balls. He was getting involved in the link-up play in the final third. I liked what I saw from Casemiro. And defensively, he was solid as well. It's not easy to sell players at United, though. We saw that, No, we didn't have any suitors. He's on high wages. He's older. Um, it just is what it is. Other clubs have to want to buy the players too and then pay those wages. So it's really difficult. It sounds like we're just ready to kind of be like, you know what, we'll just keep him. And if we can get the best out of him, that's good for everybody. I think Casemiro's role is either going to change a little this year, or he's going to have some help in midfields where he's not being asked to do so much of the recovery on his own, because a prime Casemiro next to Kobbie Mainoo, yeah, great. Casemiro now next to Kobbie Mainoo, not great. Not that either of them are bad. It's just they need more legs next to them, because Kobbie Mainoo is not that midfield destroyer. He can make the recovery tackle. We've seen it with England and United, but I wouldn't want him to be limited to that deeper role, because you're not getting the most out of Mainoo, and we've seen Casemiro just can't do that anymore. So let me know your thoughts on these potential rumor that Casemiro could be in the squad next season. Do you think that's the right move? I mean, like we said, it's not easy just to sell players just because we want to move them on. It is what it is. So in football, you know, everybody gets it. Nobody takes it personally. Just everybody gets their head down and works. So Romano did add, though, to keep an eye on Scott McTominay. Obviously, he's been linked with Fulham throughout the summer. Fulham actually had bids rejected by United and are looking for 25 to 30 million to let him leave. He was my buddy Justin's pick yesterday. If you guys caught that show, go check out the video again if you haven't yet. He was my buddy Justin's pick for Player of the Year yesterday, and he gave some compelling arguments for why. You know, McTominay, when it comes to being a United player to that badge, McTominay, he gets it, right? He fights for the badge. I wish that were enough, but it's not. A lot of youngsters, a lot of academy players have come through the doors that they do get it as far as what it means to be a United player, but not all of them have it talent-wise. And that's just the reality. It's not saying they're bad. They're still Premier League footballers. You know, Anthony Elanga is still a Premier League footballer. McTominay plays for United, and he, like Justin said, he did score some important goals. He did. He came on against Brentford last season. You know, that was one of the picks for a moment of the season when McTominay came on, scored 2 goals against Brentford to win that match. He does a good job, but if you can get money for him and you can improve on him, would you do it? So let me know. That sounds like, according to Romano, McTominay stuff's not done yet. So it could be an interesting next couple weeks here. We've still got 3 weeks left of the transfer window. It could be interesting. So Romano did provide another squad update today as well. Romano's on top of it today, but I'm sure you've all seen the news. I'm sure you guys have seen the thumbnail, obviously, but Manchester United have reached an agreement with Bruno Fernandes to extend his contract. New deal will be valid until June 2027, plus an option for a further season going to 2028. Salary will be increased to the top earning level. I haven't seen the official numbers yet on that, but Bruno doesn't make as much as some of the other players in the squad, but he is one of the high earners. But it sounds like he's going to be up there on par with like your Rashford and your Casemiro now, all set to be signed before the end of the window. So locking down Bruno for another couple of years. Bruno, it's one of those weird phenomena sometimes with some players. You worry that they're played too much, because Bruno is literally hardly ever misses a match. I think he's missed like 2 matches since he's been at the club, right? So you worry, like, is he playing too much? Is he playing too much? But he never looks like slowing down. He never looks like he's got to take a rest or anything. So, and fitness is not what it was 10 years ago. Players can play later on and still play at that peak level depending on the player. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that, it keeps us from the pressure of having to look for a number 10 for another year. So I think we can identify and start working on, replacement options, because I don't think Mount is that guy. He was kind of a ghost yesterday in the Shield. I just forgot that he was on the pitch. The only thing that stuck out to me that I really noticed Mount is when Ahmad played that ball to him and he just wasn't like expecting it and just missed that chance to put a goal in. So it is what it is on Mount. I saw someone tweet earlier, like, it wouldn't surprise me if Mount were at Villa or West Ham in a year. Who knows? But sounds like Bruno's going to be here for the foreseeable future, and then maybe in a year or so we can start looking at young replacements that we can kind of bring in and bet in a little bit. So let me know your thoughts on Bruno extending that contract. Captain's going to be here for another couple of years. Big news. One player who does have a lot of work to do to win back a large portion of this United fan base, and in my opinion, win back his place in the starting 11 is Marcus Rashford. We spoke a little bit about this yesterday. If you guys watched the Community Shield, let me know your thoughts on Rashford's performance. But he did miss some sitters yesterday that you wouldn't expect him to miss, especially given the fact that they were literally just open goals. It was very, very frustrating. And I said yesterday it was frustrating not because of just the situation, but because of he's not like Bruno or Garnacho or Leacher coming back from Copa America or someone coming back from the Euros. Rashford didn't go to the Euros. He's been training. He's been involved in all the friendlies. He's fitter than everyone else. He shouldn't be missing those kind of simple chances to just tap something in like that. Should be doing better. Of course, last year was a rough season for Rashford on and off the pitch. We saw him struggling to replicate his form from 2022, 2023. And then there was, some questionable decision making and things going on off the pitch as well. We're not going to rehash it all. It is what it is. A lot of fans were crying out for him to be sold. He was linked with PSG. PSG's president has, in the past spoken about his admiration for Rashford. So it seemed like that could actually be a realistic move for him. I think that this is going to be a big year for Marcus Rashford. This could be a make or break year. If he doesn't continue to perform, if he's not a regular in the starting 11, because like I said, right now, for me, if I had to pick starting 11 against Fulham, Rashford's on the bench, Garnacho's on the left, Ahmad's on the right. If that's going to be the norm for Rashford, if he can't get up to speed, if he can't perform and deliver when given the chances next season, is he going to want to stay or is he going to want to move on? We know that he's the talisman of United. He's one of the better academy players that's come through in the last decade or so, but his form and his numbers have dipped since his big contract after that season. So it could be a topic for another video, maybe. So let me know if that's something you guys want to spend some time focused on and talking about in a future video. But Rashford's got a lot to do. Garnacho came on yesterday and within a few minutes had already looked better than Rashford had. He was already hungry. He was, already ready to go. He's got the goal right by beating a couple of defenders, putting Joshua Gvardiol out of the basically making Joshua Gvardiol do a Virgil van Dijk against Sancho a couple of years ago. I remember that one. So Rashford's got a lot to prove. I think Rashford's reminding me a little more and more of Wayne Rooney in the way that when Rooney got older and he was being a little bit more of a playmaker, Rashford's got a really good long ball on him. We saw it in the FA Cup final. He's doing a little bit yesterday. It was like we get the ball to Rashford, he stops, and if there's an opportunity to switch the play off to the right, he's going to take that. And I think Rashford is adding a little bit of that to this game, and maybe that's frustrating for him to not be as involved as the final focal point. I don't know, but Rashford's got a lot to do to convince me. Sounds like he's got a lot to do to convince United. Maybe he's got a lot to do to convince Ten Hag and the rest of the fan base. But let me know, would you start Rashford against Fulham? We're going to talk more about the Fulham match, obviously, next Thursday. After the press conference and whatnot, we'll do a match preview. We'll jump in Friday after the match to do an initial reaction, and then Saturday will be, your 3 thoughts on the match. So that is going to do it for me today, everybody. Earlier one today, everyone's probably off enjoying their Sunday morning. I'm going to go walk these dogs and just wind down a little bit, still kind of waking up a little bit after a long one yesterday. But thank you for stopping by today. Go, please check out that video from yesterday, the 23-24 season. I would love to hear some more picks and more thoughts and opinions in the comments. I will respond to all the comments as I always do. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new and like what you see, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.